uncomfortable truth that you've learned about success?
Like money can create happiness. After that, it's about respect. I think if I could sum it up, it's like money matters to a point, then you get access to all the experiences possible as a human being, which is awesome. And then it's really mostly just about what you did for the rest of humanity. Do you want to be somebody or do you want to do something? And I don't think either of those answers are wrong. I think it's a deeply personal thing. For me, it's always been, I want to do something.
Well, I think it definitely changes the way you approach things. I think maybe you could have both, but maybe your approach to one or the other might be different. Welcome to Second Self, the podcast where we explore what happens after the big chapter ends. Whether it's selling a company, leaving the spotlight, or walking away from a former identity, this show dives into the reinvention that follows success and the messy, beautiful process of becoming who you really are. Each week, I sit down with founders, creators, artists, athletes, and visionaries to unpack the emotional, psychological, and spiritual side of transformation. If this episode resonates, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and if you know someone going through their own reinvention, please share this with them. Welcome to the pod, Justin.
Thank you, sir.
So you've reinvented yourself many times now. You've been a DJ, early stage crypto investor, entrepreneur, CEO, and you've had a lot of success at all of these different things that people spend a lifetime trying to achieve. So for one thing that I would love to hear is, what is one uncomfortable truth that you've learned about success?
Yeah, I think when I hear all those things about myself, it's funny because it sounds like a stereotype, right? Like crypto DJ from Las Vegas, entrepreneur. It's like, oh my God, if I met someone else who was those things, I would immediately judge them.
Yeah.
No, man, one uncomfortable truth. You know, it's cool how we met. We met through friends and mutual love for watches. And I think that's sort of relevant to thinking about like one uncomfortable truth, which I think I'm ashamed to admit, but it's nice to say, like money can create happiness. And I think a lot of people are like, money can't buy you happiness, all these other things. The way I think it looks is money and happiness have this like weird S-curve relationship where, you know, there's this bottom level of it where like you're just surviving, right? And that's hopefully increasing over time as productivity in our country and other countries continue to increase. Then there's like this big middle section where there's this steep curve of like happiness where all of a sudden you get access to like special types of experiences, vacations that are otherwise really expensive, right? You want to go to the Sphere in Las Vegas, that's hundreds of dollars. Not everyone can afford that, right? And so all of a sudden you hit this level where affordability of experiences and material things that may or may not give you happiness just becomes like way more tangible, right? Like there are new artists that make beautiful creations for $2,000 to $4,000, and there are seasoned artists that make beautiful creations for millions of dollars. And like the joy you get out of those things or those experiences only diminishes over time as you spend more money. And so, yeah, happiness is this S-curve on money where in the center, you know, you see this big growth as you start to earn a little bit, and then it just completely flattens out on the other side, right? Like, do you really need a bigger jet to get you where you're going? Do you really need a bigger yacht to get you where you're going or to have a great time? Like, definitely not. And I think a lot of people sort of see these things on social media and they get really excited about like that level. But really, there's a still very high level that I think creates happiness. But I think the biggest misconception is that it doesn't. Because money just gives you access to all these experiences that you otherwise couldn't have. And like, you know, the best example of this, when I started on tour, I would be hungover sleeping on the floor of the Southwest exit row every time I was getting on a plane. I love that I don't have to do that anymore. You know what I mean?
And you still had the exit row.
I still have the exit row.
Still had the upgrade.
Oh man, that was from flying too much, honestly. That was from having a companion pass on Southwest because Las Vegas has, Southwest is a hub here. So anytime I was on tour, I would always fly Southwest. It was the cheapest and I had status, so I got to that exit row first without paying for that business class, that business select ticket or whatever they call it.
So how are you able to come to that conclusion, especially because money is an interesting topic I speak with a lot of guests on. My relationship with money has evolved and changed over time. You know, similar to you, I know we spoke about this before, where it was like you got into your career, a lot of it sounded like it might have been, I don't know if it was purely money driven, but like you were creating music for trying to optimize to make money. My entrepreneurial journey was optimized to make money. I was very opportunistic for me, and that was my goal. For the reasons you mentioned of like the scarcity mindset, it took, you know, accomplishing that and having that to realize for me, kind of like the flat line of it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
I'm curious for you, kind of where in your journey did you come to this conclusion? Was that always what your mindset on it was, or?
Not exactly. I think like every day I wake up in the morning, I have a different relationship to like fulfillment and money. And I don't know very much about Buddhism, but I do have an executive coach who his name is Khaled, and he's coached some of the top. I think he said he has over 20 unicorns or over 10 unicorn companies of execs that he's coached, including like Travis from Uber and the founders of Coinbase, Fred and Brian. And he said this in one session. He's like, Justin, you're like in your full non-attachment mode of Buddhism. And I don't know anything about Buddhism. So I spent some time asking chat about Buddhism. And, and I think he's right? Like where you sort of go through these cycles of like, do I have enough to do the things I want to do for the rest of my life and not have to worry too much? I think like that's the point where like some people don't know where that is. Some people have to feel it for a really long time before they know what that feels like. And for me, it was in 2021, I had this big sale, like digital asset sale. I've been playing with digital assets for 11 years. And all of a sudden there was just this unexpected injection of liquidity, like completely unexpected. And that's when not exactly I began to realize that I was going to be fine. But that scarcity mindset, as you mentioned, is kind of what drives you to work harder and to keep pushing and to keep pushing. And then I think at some point it flipped where, and this is kind of going back to the S curve on money and happiness again, like all of a sudden the amount didn't matter, but the impact mattered a lot more. And then I started realizing that I would judge others on this, right? Like if somebody made money, it's like really hard to get lucky 3 times, right? It's hard to get lucky 5 times. It's pretty easy to get lucky once, or like it might fall upon you. But really, if you get lucky, or if you're right about some level of expertise multiple times in a row, there's something to be said about that. There's something really admirable about humans who have the capacity of doing that. And as I sort of like hit this liquidity point in 2021 and started experiencing things that I otherwise definitely would never have spent money on, I started to realize like I would sort of judge other people and how they got there. And I was like, shit, that matters a lot to me. Like 10 years from now, I don't want to be known as the guy who just made money in this one way. I want to be known as the guy who had like an extreme impact that bettered humanity in some way, shape, or form. In my mind, it's like...
So judging people, what they were doing with their money.
Yeah, I guess like to be frank, I've met a bunch of like really wealthy people who mostly made their money in value extractive ways, right? And like, it doesn't matter that they have hundreds of millions of dollars. Sometimes I don't know too many billionaires who've done it in really negligent and bad ways. But like, there are lots of people that have, hundreds of millions of dollars that have probably done it in an extractive way, right?
Here in Vegas, I'm sure there's a...
Yeah, and in crypto specifically, right? Like I think it's a little bit of a playground for that. That said, right, like I found myself in this point where the perception of me, the way I wanted to be perceived was this person had a profound impact on bettering culture in some way, shape, or form. Not the material things I had or the experiences that I've had. Though those things are fun to talk about, like they really are. And they also create connections with other humans who appreciate those types of experiences or things. One of the ways you and I met, right? Through watches.
Yeah.
And so like, I think all these things are like sort of to say that that happiness S-curve, right? Where like all of a sudden you can access all of these things, whether it be the jets, the yachts, the watches, whatever the hell it might be. And at some point now owning them becomes more of a burden, right? Like owning a plane is a burden. Owning a yacht, I don't have one. I have a bunch of friends that have boats, like a big burden, right? Even owning multiple homes is a burden. Totally. Something goes wrong, right? And so this S-curve, as you can afford all these like really, really nice things, all of a sudden the thing that matters is how you did it, not what you have, because anyone can do it, right? Like not everyone can own a yacht, but most people can have yacht type experiences with some type of money that are really fun and enjoyable. And it's not that different whether you're on a 300-foot boat or a 150-foot boat. I guess I didn't expect to start the podcast this way, but you said, what's an uncomfortable truth? And I said, money can create access to happiness. And I think people just, but it's like a certain level and then everything else doesn't matter after that. After that, it's about respect. I think if I could sum it up, it's like money matters to a point, then you get access to all the experiences possible as a human being, which is awesome. And then it's really mostly just about what you did for the rest of humanity and how you're remembered.
So it sounds like now reaching this conclusion, this is a big reason of what your why is and maybe what your motivation is now maybe impact. Is that how you're seeing it currently?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I could sum up my motivation today and like why I wake up in the morning and do everything I do, it's to give the younger version of myself an easier time achieving whatever their goals are, specifically like creative goals, but it could be entrepreneurial goals. As I stutter, there's this kid who it's like weird to say that you're friends with a 13-year-old boy. It's weird to say that in 2025. But I did meet a 13-year-old kid named Nick from New York in a Twitter space who was interested in crypto. And he was selling NFTs in the like prime NFT time. And I was in the Twitter space and I just loved the way he was articulating the beauty of the technology and like what it's going to do in the future and all these things. And so I bought a bunch of his NFTs that he was selling. And then like after I bought them, obviously you can see everything on the blockchain. So a bunch of other people came to buy it. This same kid 3 years later invented this thing that's gone viral on the internet called sperm racing.
No way. Yeah, I've seen that. Wow.
Pretty crazy, right? And I didn't even like realize. He sent
So
me,
yeah, I saw that he raised millions of dollars as a 16-year-old.
Tom Brady's, he's 16 now, right?
Yeah, so he's raised millions of dollars as a 15 or 16-year-old.
And we actually
That's insane.
We just spoke today. I was giving him advice on like some fundraising stuff. And I mean, how did they figure out how to do sperm racing? Fucking chat GPT.
No way.
Like,
wow.
That's the beginning of their research. 3 kids in New York City. Like, there's a lot of backstory to this. Incredible, incredible backstory. But at 13, I recognized this kid's just motivated and hungry, right? And I just wanted to like support that. And like, so I sort of think about my whole life as this, right? Like when I was young, I really, really, really wanted to make music. I wanted to make that my profession, but I knew going head into it that it was going to be really, really hard. And especially because I sort of stayed independent. I didn't want to go like a conventional route. I really wanted to own everything myself and do everything myself because I'm a little bit of a control freak like that. But now I look at the next generation, I sort of want to create that opportunity for them and make it easier on them. And I tend to believe like really ambitious human beings do create more value in the world. Like at the end of the day, when we die, that's really all we have to leave behind, right? And our experiences and our memories that maybe money paid for. But like I think that there's like this really interesting thing where, yeah, like there's a certain amount that gets you really happy, gets you all your basic needs and more. Then after that, it's like, okay, what do I leave behind when I die? And I actually think about this a lot. I want people to remember me in a certain way. I can't avoid that innate desire and that innate thinking about how I will be perceived and how I am actively
Do you
perceived.
think about that in terms of like your close circle of friends or relationships or loved ones or just the broader world because you're obviously a public figure? How do you see that? Because it's interesting.
I think the English word for it is just legacy, right? Like everyone's going to say whatever they want to say, but there's a certain level of undeniability that like when you hit it, like, wow, I did something meaningful and important. And it could be small, it could be big, but sometimes it's just impacting one person on a really deep level. And this is why I think like the family unit is really fascinating American phenomena because like you really impact, your family, your wife, your kids. If that's the path you choose to go down as you get older. For me, it's like, I know that's in my future one day, but I still have a little bit of time to just like, honestly, to kind of like fuck shit up. Like that's what I love. Like at the time I started DJing, no one thought dance music was music. At the time I started learning a lot about crypto, everyone thought it was a scam. And like these things are like AI was a scam as well. Now I, probably spend at least 3 to 4 hours, spend more time using AI tools than I do on social media every day at this point. And so like, yeah, I guess like to be remembered for doing something important is like sort of what drives me every morning, and not in a way that's like, even if it's just a couple of people that really recognize it, that's sick. And like, I have a lot of friends that I've met over the years through multiple aspects of my career who I just like have deep, profound respect for. And they know this. I tell them this. They might not be famous, but they've done something. Mm-hmm. And like, there's this really great phrase just to sort of wrap this thought about money, happiness, purpose, all these things. Like, it really hit me. I don't remember who said it. And I don't remember where I got it from. I could probably look it up on chat. But this phrase is, do you want to be somebody or do you want to do something? And I don't think either of those answers are wrong. I think it's a deeply personal thing. For me, it's always been, I want to do something.
Well, I think it definitely changes your the way you approach things, for sure. I think it's maybe hard to do. I think maybe you could have both, but maybe your approach to one or the other might be different. It's interesting to think about.
Absolutely. And like you look at people like Jensen, right?
Yeah.
Who haven't been in the spotlight for most of their career of actually changing the
Yeah.
world.
Like he definitely didn't want to be somebody, but now he's signing, like signing women's breasts. autographs,
I
saw
that.
So he definitely became someone, but that was through what he did.
Right.
And I think maybe going the other route, you can't have that.
In many ways, Kim Kardashian did something by being someone.
Yeah.
Right? Like respect, like she's built an empire by being someone. And I never really watched the show or anything. My girlfriend made me put it on one day. I was kind of curious, keeping up with the Kardashians. I get it. She's so likable. Oh my God. Forget, I don't know what's in the press. I don't really pay attention. But on that show, she's so relatable in a way that props to her. She's got some talent for that, right? And being someone there's nothing to frown upon if that's what you want. I think it's just recognizing what you want to do, whether you want to be someone or do something, and then go all in on that.
Totally.
And then maybe it spills over. Most musicians probably wanted to, most famous musicians, I should say, not the John Mayers of the world. Most pop stars wanted to be someone, and that definitely represented their notoriety more than their actual talent, right? I would say, this is not to jump ahead into the controversial section of this, but 98% of the DJs don't make their own music and are mostly just brand narrative stories. And this is there's a lot of uncomfortable truths, right? And I think we don't talk about them because they're uncomfortable. This is why as the flies by, why I was excited to come on this podcast, because I'm mostly introverted, but when I'm around someone who I'm comfortable with, I kind of, the unfiltered side comes out a little more.
But no, that's pretty crazy when you think about it in that way of just the concept of art and music and emotion, and like you said, that it's maybe manufactured more than anything, and how that has an impact on the person is, I think, can just, people don't think about the person much,
right?
And that's the whole, you're obviously an artist and DJ. We'll get into that. But it's really interesting. But anyways, I want to talk a little bit more about, the concept of second self. Want to talk more about the, how you got here. And you mentioned something about how what you want to do now is to make it easier for the earlier version of yourself and things he wanted to accomplish and whatnot. So I'd love to know, what role did music play in your life growing up?
Yeah, a pretty significant role. So fun random fact, my grandfather was the head engineer at Electric Lady Studios in New York, which was Jimi Hendrix's recording studio. And he was an immigrant from Israel.
Wow.
He met my grandmother in Israel. She was vacationing there, volunteering at a kibbutz, which is where he grew up. And my grandfather moved to the US. Israelis are known for their engineering skills. And he's one of them. And he, sort of got scooped up into... He started by doing sound at the UN for meetings, and then somehow ended up in the recording studio. And so it's sort of been in my blood, sort of music and engineering. My mom, back in the day, all the baby Mozart classical music thing, I was her firstborn. So she was playing classical music for me while I was in the womb. My dad would tell me every night they were playing me music. And then for a period of time when I was younger, probably until I moved to Vegas, which was when I was 13 years old, from the whole time I lived in New York, which is where I grew up, I could only ever remember being able to fall asleep if there was classical music on. So I literally couldn't fall asleep. And to this day, I still have terrible insomnia, and I also still listen to music every night when I go to sleep.
Really? Is it still Mozart?
It's mostly ambient stuff, But I also started using this new ultrasound headband called Elmine that does weird frequencies.
I think I bought it and it was on preset, but it actually works.
It does. You just have to have you have to.
I know it takes a while to get used to that, right?
Yeah, it does. But then it works, and whenever I don't use it, I feel like I haven't used it. And it's just it just gets you to sleep faster. And it's also a habitual thing. I'll just sit and look at my ceiling and think about work stuff.
And then also if you go to the bathroom, it helps you fall asleep faster again.
It does. It works. It's still a new science, but I imagine that tech is just going to get better and better, and it's going to work more efficiently.
But I also have Israeli parents, and my dad is an engineer, so a little commonality there.
There we go.
Although it wasn't anything with music. So you got into finance, took a job on Wall Street, and you were still able to make your way back to music.
Yeah. So I guess it's this. The ordering is there's a quick version, and then I'll probably like reference aspects of it back as we talk about other things. But I loved math in college, and it's the same love for solving problems in a mathematical way that made me fall in love with dance music. It's hard to explain, but it's like very similar. Like even I'm learning to code now, all these years later. I never knew how to do anything. And now there's like all these AI tools that make it easy to learn. But it's more of like the flow of solving a problem that is a creative problem. And I think math is actually quite creative. Actually there's this great, I don't remember who told me this, but in ancient Greece, there was like almost no distinction between the word for art and the word for technology. And I forget like what the word is, so forgive me. I mean, if we had someone looking it up on chat, they'd tell us. But like, I sort of think about like architecture, art, and technology in the same wavelength. It's all like solving problems for the purpose of like creating something. And so I guess to answer your question, which I'm jumping around.
Well, it kind of makes sense because that's a lot of what those ancient Greeks were, right? They were the architects, philosophers, they're creating sculptures and whatnot. So it kind of makes
moving people in a direction through all these different
like Leonardo da Vinci, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think for me, I always knew I wanted to do music stuff, but knew it was relatively just not feasible. I also knew I wanted to have a certain level of wealth that was comfortable. My dad came, from a very, very humble family. His parents were school teachers. He moved out when he was like 16. His parents got divorced, and he just like built businesses from the time he was 16, like true American hustle. And he like really instilled that in me when I was growing up. I guess, and I mean, this is all sort of a part of it. Like I'd always loved music, and I was reading Pitchfork, and that's how I discovered music through like my poetry teacher in high school. So I guess like it's worth maybe going through the whole like quick version of the story, which is I grew up in New York. 9/11 happened, and my family, it's like, we got to get out of here. We knew a lot of people that were impacted by 9/11. My parents looked to California. They didn't love it, and we landed in Vegas. It's, my dad comes from the entertainment business. He built an entertainment company in his younger years that did parties for like high profile people in New York. He did like the Ford Taurus launch with Aretha Franklin, and he did like Ice Cube's wedding or Ice Cube's something. He did like an Ice Cube party at one point. He did like his company just like threw these like big events in New York. And then he was also great at math, and he started basically trading options in the early days before you could do it online. And that's sort of where like me and my little brother, we like grew a pretty deep interest in finance. Then on my mom's side is like, she was a choreographer and a dancer. And so like I have that, that's why she played me classical music.
Got
and
it.
These things. So I sort of like have my dad's right brain and my mom's left brain. And in school, like I knew music wasn't feasible, but I would always listen to, like I grew up listening to Sigur Rós and Radiohead and Burial, this like UK dubstep. I hate, dubstep has so many connotations today, but like OG, like dark, grungy dubstep. And I would listen to these things in college, and all I wanted to do was make music that was as good as the music I was listening to. And I couldn't do it. It was really hard, right? My music was really garbage, right? And I play guitar and I sing and I do all these things. And I discovered dance music through my freshman roommate, Johan, who was from Sweden. Or I guess we were roommates second year, but we became very close my freshman year of college. And I was studying finance and math and economics and English, funny enough. I was doing both. Not studying music. Went to Sweden summer after my freshman year and like became completely enthralled with dance music. I was like, wow, I could create this myself with a computer. I don't need to get along with bandmates, which at the time, like I could play guitar, I could play drums, but like once I had to coordinate with people, I kind of shut down. And it's a skill that I had to learn way later in life that I just didn't have when I was in school. And so, because I was kind of an introvert, right? And so, freshman year, I discovered dance music and I just started making it. And then at this point, I like wanted to throw parties, and I remember I had a credit card from my parents that I was only allowed to use on food because my school didn't have a cafeteria where I went to here. So like we had to order food, and my mom didn't want to make me lunch every day, so I had a credit card for food, and I brought that with me to college. And then I used it to buy alcohol. They like noticed instantly and took it away, right? So like all of a sudden I have no money. Like, okay, how am I going to pay for alcohol? Well, I'm going to start DJing, and that's how it started. So
wow.
I played my later to be co-founder at my startup. I played his frat basement heaven and hell party for a 3/4 full bottle of Crown Royal whiskey. And that's where it began.
Wow,
And,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's wild. Like that's how it started. But at the time, like being a DJ was not like no one even knew what that was in America. Like
what year was this?
2010. So like it was still pretty early for dance music. Avicii had just begun to pop off. Calvin Harris, David Guetta, all that stuff like was huge. Was starting to get huge. And there were no American DJs except for, at the time, Skrillex was really beginning to pop off. He played like a 1,000-person venue by my school, and I went to the show. I went to school in St. Louis at a school called Wash U. There were like no DJs. So the idea of it was weird, but I was playing all the stuff in the frat basements. Like that's where it began. And like all the kids wanted to hear, like we were just shifting from like this big explosion in hip hop, which was still around, but like all of a sudden, like hip hop started getting mixed with dance. So I would like play hip hop acapellas over a dance beat, and I started making mashups that started going viral on YouTube and Facebook. And like that was like the trajectory point where like I stopped playing frat basements at my university, and I remember I got paid $700 to go play a frat at Georgia Tech. The email inquiry came to my manager, who was in school with me at the time, and I slept in one of the frat kids' beds so as to save the money, because it was just like, here's $700, can you get here? And it's like Southwest flight. How do I save money? Like, holy shit, it's not $100 anymore.
Yeah.
It's $700. That's crazy. And I was like 19, right? And that's where it began. And then all of a sudden, my grades started to fall, right? And I ended up dropping out my junior year with the blessing of my economics professor. My parents didn't want me to do it. I had a full ride, so they couldn't really say no, because they weren't paying for school. So if my parents had paid for school, there is no way I'd be. Maybe we ever would have met. I'd probably be like full family New York City banking track in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, so I ended up dropping out of school my junior year. But I had done a couple of internships in banking at Credit Suisse, and then I was going into an internship at BlackRock, but wanted to focus on music that summer around the time I was dropping out. So I never actually had a job in finance outside of an internship.
Got it. So it's interesting though. So, even now looking at your story, like the patterns of risk, reinvention, and even identity were started pretty young. And do you think maybe that's what allowed you to take these risks now, later on in life, because it's maybe been so natural to you starting at a young age?
Yeah, risk is a weird word, because everyone is taking risks in every moment.
Yeah.
And I think like there are some people, and I don't think I'm necessarily one of them, that are just really good at calculating risks, like probabilities, like poker. Like I don't even play poker, by the way, but like some of my poker player friends, they just like know things outside of poker, right? They're just really good at calculating risks and probabilities. And for me, I'm a little bit more on the scarcity mindset safety side. But when there's a lot of data, I go all in. Right?
Got it.
And so it's like it's a little bit binary for me. When stuff was going viral online, and the way it really started, I was making mashups. I couldn't make my own music. I wasn't good enough to make my own dance music, but I was good enough to take a popular vocal and put it over someone else's beat and credit everybody and throw it on YouTube. And that's really what started my career. Is I would take these I would just mix up all these different songs. It was like the second version of Girl Talk. Girl Talk had done it first and like kind of exploded, and I sort of did it, but just with dance music specifically, which is what the kids wanted to hear in the frat basement, right?
And at this point in your life now, it sounds like you had momentum online with DJing and the mashups, YouTube, SoundCloud, etc. What was your motivation? Like, what was your why at this point? Like, you obviously left school.
I just wanted to earn a living doing something in music. And, I knew that, like, I never expected to be a DJ as a career. Like, it never even was a possibility in my mind. But the USC ski and snowboarding team used one of my mashups in one of their trick videos that went viral on YouTube. And that's really what did it. And I'm still in touch with the videographer who shot it, Abe Kislevitz. He was working for GoPro, and he shot this. And GoPro at the time was like pretty new. It's pretty hot new technology, right? Instagram had barely existed. And it was a time where the Facebook algorithm didn't exist. It was just, if you liked the page, you would see everything in time linear order. And so like I sort of grew that way in the beginning, and at the time I was dropping out, I mean, from, it was basically 18 months from getting paid in a used bottle of Crown Royal to making like $10,000 opening up for Wiz Khalifa at the University of Connecticut. And like at that point, I was like, well, this is real, right? Like the data was there. I was still in school when I did that. I was still in school. I was playing clubs here in Vegas before I was of legal age, so I needed a security escort. I was still 20. And the data was just there, right? Like I was doing the math on like how much money I'd make in banking, and I was like, well, I could make more money DJing. That sounds great. But that's when the sort of like illusion began of like what was my goal, right? Like I was just going with the flow because that's what you have to do when you're in your 20s. You just have to go with the flow. You got to do whatever, take every opportunity. But I wasn't really a good, I was always a good musician. I learned how to play piano and guitar at a young age. And I always like was self-taught in that way. But I wasn't a good producer on the science side of making music because at the time it was a super high barrier to entry. And so all of a sudden it was like, I was known for making mashups, and I was all of a sudden on the lineup with all the Dutch DJs, like the Tiestos of the world, who supported me. He supported me very, very early on. I was all of a sudden like on these lineups with like the legends, but I wasn't even making my own music yet. I was just like the American kid. It was at the time it was Skrillex, Cascade, Porter Robinson, and me. deadmau5 was Canadian. He was also big at the time. But like there weren't that many American known DJs at all. This is like even before Martin Garrix became like the biggest DJ in Europe. And so, so it was like a relatively new phenomena. And I just like had to go with the flow because I dropped out all of a sudden, like whatever safety net of like going to a good university and like doing all the things your parents told you to do. Like all of a sudden that safety net didn't exist. So I just like had to figure out how to make money, survive with my art. And, we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, but I think the moment money is involved in art, it's inevitably corruptive. And it's really sad, but you can't stop it. And some artists are really good at stopping it. I think no one is good at isolating it completely. It's like almost impossible to completely isolate it. Because we do have human needs. We do have like this innate desire to signal something, some form of success, whether it's through art or through money or whatever it is, right? And so at the time that I started going, like I dropped out of school, I moved home, lived with my parents for 6 months, realized that was a really bad idea, could afford my own place, actually bought my own place. And this is where I got introduced to, this is how I learned about crypto, because it wasn't so easy to get a mortgage, even though I had the money for the down payment, because I was 20, or I was 21 when I bought my first place. It's great. Like at the time, this is 2011 or 2012, whenever it was, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you couldn't send a wire online. You had to go into the bank branch to send a wire. And I'm like, this is crazy. And that's how I discovered crypto. But
oh, really? So that was the you buying your first home was how you discovered crypto in the sense of like how
indirectly.
Easy? Okay.
The crypto story is like the best and most cliche story ever. So we'll get to that.
Were you buying drugs online?
Oh, it's so much better. It's so much better than that. I was not buying drugs online, and I do prescription drugs, which is regretful, but minimally. So I guess like you asked about like the risk taking and leaving school, like dropping out of school. All of a sudden, like I needed to make it work, and I did have a mortgage. And when you're a musician, you have no idea when people are going to stop caring, and all of a sudden it became, and I was decent at it, like, how do I keep people caring? Not what art do I want to make? But there's nothing to complain about there, right? Like, holy crap, like I get to do this. I get to make this art and make money. That's the privilege of a lifetime, right? And I had to go for it. And I always kind of knew in the back of my head that later on in life, I'd get to kind of fuck around and do what I want. But it wasn't then. It wasn't when I dropped out at 20 years old and had a lot of momentum. My agent was a big time agent whose intern found me, and I played a random bar in Nashville for like $3,000. And like all these dollar amounts were like so variable, and all of a sudden I was opening for, I opened for Macklemore at Duke. I played at Harvard. I opened for Passion Pit at Yale when Passion Pit was really, really big, and all these universities. And like I really built my fan base from the ground up that way, just playing shows and releasing these mashups. And the first Reinvention was like after I'd already dropped out and I was releasing these mashups, all of a sudden the dance music community was like, mashups aren't cool. Like it's like stealing people's ideas. It's like you're profiting and like basically, earning off of someone else's work. And I was like, I see that perspective. That's not why I was doing it, but like I see why people would feel that way. And I was like, shit, I have to learn. I'm a good songwriter, but I don't know the like deep science of music production. So I have to learn. So the first like reinvention outside of like ditching finance to be a DJ was like, holy shit, I have to learn how to produce music, because the music world looked so down, like frowned upon this mashup thing that really did take off. And there were a couple of artists at the time, one of which ended up becoming, and I was talking to him today, Marshmello, who was just an incredible mashup artist. And at the time, the access to the technology to make really good dance music was still thin. Like you could get Ableton was relatively new product. Logic was a new product. Most of the people messing with these things were still making rock music and like going to create like pop hits. And the software wasn't as good. It was just like more challenging to learn. YouTube tutorials didn't exist. Like there was like this weird gap of time where like once YouTube tutorials began to exist, everyone could become a DJ really easily. But like when Skrillex started, there was none of that. He taught himself, right? And I'm sure had a bunch of other friends. I don't know him that well, but we've hung out a bunch. But yeah, so the first reinvention was like, oh shit, I have to make my own music now. Which I was doing, like I was making like indie folk music in high school, but like not music that had a chance. And so I fully recognized that I didn't know how. So I just found people that could teach me. And so I had done this remix contest for Tiesto. I lost, but I got the most votes because I had a lot of following online. The kids that won it, Paris and Simo, were in Montreal, Canada, and their song just was so punchy and so thick, and all the sounds were like really deliberately placed in the mix, which is like the most challenging part of making music, in my opinion. A good mix is really, really challenging. And so I just like went up to Canada for a week and I made a song with them. I was like, I suck at this, teach me. And I sat and I watched them.
Wow.
And I only got a little bit better. I still had a lot to learn.
Yeah. But it still is in something there. I think there's a big lesson of like, number one, being humble. I think a lot of people, I say this all the time, like advice I give people is admitting to yourself that you don't know, and it's okay to ask questions and find mentors or advisors or coach, whatever, and seeking that help. There's nothing wrong. And at this time, it sounds like you already had a name, an audience, a following,
So
momentum.
lucky. Like,
And
how
we're still willing to humble yourself and say, can you guys teach me, essentially?
I also wanted to learn. I do have this obsession of like anything that I don't like a lot of things, but anything that I do really love, I go way too deep on. So like these things have sort of become art, anything crypto adjacent, anything music and health adjacent, and like sort of watches, which is like, in my opinion, the nerdiest form of art, and why I sort of fell in love with them. And like, I'm like basically really deep on those things. I kind of went deep on guns during COVID a little bit, built my own gun, built my own shotgun. It was like really fun. I just like want to know how things work. I have an obsession with digging like one layer deeper.
The engineering side in you.
Yeah, exactly. And it comes from somewhere, right? Like, like your parents, my parents. And so, yeah, from like studying derivatives in college and then becoming a DJ, having to sort of realize that I needed to make my own music for people to respect me. Like, that's really what it was. Like, I knew I had the talent to make good songs, but I wasn't good enough at like production, which is how those songs are presented. Mm-hmm. And when I was making indie stuff, like it was pretty like microphone setups, preamplification. There's a lot of variables when you're recording that like dance music just like took away those challenges because like, it's all in the box. And that's why I sort of shifted from making like indie Radiohead style stuff to dance music, because it was just an easier way to get a song out. And then the song I ended up making with these kids in Montreal went like number 2 on dance radio the following year. And that's like really what solidified me as like no longer the college mashup DJ, but like actually an electronic music producer. Mind you, I still wasn't very good, right? So like I had this following, but I wasn't actually really good at the thing that I was known for. People knew me for being a DJ. That I was known for and I was pretty good at. But like making music, I could write, but wasn't the best producer. And I just needed to improve. And that's like where the sort of next chapter began, where like once you have a hit song, Like now you need another hit song.
Yeah.
And then it happened. I got the second one, and then everything was off to the races, right? And
were you still in this scarcity mindset at that time, trying to create, like we mentioned, 98% of people are creating songs, maybe for others, you mentioned. Were you still in the scarcity mindset at this time, or are you now like evolving to create music that was true to yourself, or how did you see that part?
Yeah, so I guess 2014. So I started kind of professionally 2010, 2011 is when I started touring. But then in 2014, I mean, there's a lot of layers to this, and the story is, it goes deeper. It goes, I was making music for myself, but with a layer of it being publicly accessible, right? Like, so the songs were written in a way that I would have expressed my own musical ideas, but I always twisted it to just be more presentable to the public, right? Because like the musical idea is in your head, and then the way it's manifested in a live setting is one thing, and the way it's manifested in a recording is another thing. A lot of people don't know this, and Billie Eilish opened up to it in an interview. Like, when you hear a vocal, before AI, let's like take AI out of the picture for a second. When you hear a vocal in a song, that's like 150 to 200 takes of someone singing the same line over and over again, and then an editor splicing it by the syllable to create the best version of every single word of the vocal. And the human ear would never notice. Like, it's so good. It's called quick swipe comping. So you just like comp the vocal, which means you take all these different takes, and each way, timing wise, being on pitch, even though auto-tune helps, like all these different things. That engineer is behind the scenes making Billie's voice perfect. Now, she can still freaking sing, but it's perfect in the recording. And if you go back to like why the Beatles were so big, it's actually because, like, in my opinion, you know, I'm not the biggest Beatles fan. Lots of respect for the Beatles. Like, George Martin was insane. Like, their engineer, like Abbey Road was an insane studio. They had access to all this equipment and all this stuff that a lot of people didn't have access to. And that's why their stuff sounded better. It really did sound better at the time.
Never heard that take before.
It's a little bit of a controversial take. I think they're all fantastic songwriters. But they didn't like push the envelope.
Yeah.
They did the thing.
But it goes show, you're saying the point is how important the engineering part is within song creation.
Yeah, and this is where like we can go really deep on like music recording is only 100 years old.
Yeah.
So we've existed as human beings making music for like the first musical instrument is the djembe babe flute, which carbon dates back to like 50,000 years ago. The first words, like written language, is only 5,000 years old. So like we have like carbon dated proof that instruments existed before words. And like another rabbit hole we can go down. But like while I'm still on the arc of getting to where we are today, the first Reinvention was like, okay, I can't just be a DJ. I have to be a producer who makes my own dance music. But I'm not good at this. But the world already knew me for doing that. And so it was like a little bit of a lie, right? And I felt myself, I was always honest about it with myself and with fans or whoever. Like, I didn't want to be just that mashup DJ, but I was. And then a lot of things changed where there was this management company called 360. It still exists today. And there are these two managers that have since parted ways, Mark Gillespie, who did Calvin Harris, and Dean Wilson, who did Deadmau5. And my manager, who was just my buddy from college, ended up getting scooped up into that management company. And in a way, it really changed my life. And we'll get into how it did. But not because of the people in the organization, more because of the other people I met through it. But I've been with the same agent my entire career, Hunter Williams at CAA, but he was originally an independent agency that got sucked into CAA because he was so successful, and like he's my day one. Now I have a bunch of other people at CAA working on the project. But yeah, like through joining this management company, I met this sound engineer who is now my full-time partner and employee, and like sort of silent partner of my musical projects. But like I've talked about him a lot. His DJ name was numbness. His real name is Chris Elliott, and he taught me everything I know. And it started out by me paying him for it, like paying for the studio time, not even directly to him, but like through. He's basically just this incredible sound engineer from Scotland who just like spent, you know, he's just got like so many hours in the studio. He's a bit older than me. I think maybe like 8 years older than me. And he was working on, like, he's worked on like a lot of big pop records that you know. And the management company was like, yeah, your new song, it just doesn't sound clean enough yourself. Like, are you open to sending it out for someone to mix and master it? And I was like, no, I'm a control freak. I'm like, no. I'm going to learn how to do it myself. I'll sit in the room with somebody to learn, but I need to be there. I need to know how it works. And that's when I started, it was my song, How You Love Me, that came out in 2014. That went number one on dance radio and really propelled my career to the next level. It sounded bad. And then I just sat in the studio with this engineer for hours getting it until I felt like it was ready and it was better. And then I ended up hiring him full time, and we work together on everything now. That was where, just knowing how to make stuff sound really clean in dance music. And I could go deep on like why it used to matter and then it stopped mattering. Because people just want something catchy these days. And there's like a threshold level of acceptable production quality. But you go back in time and you listen to like the Led Zeppelin records or the Pink Floyd records, and like these things were just like so advanced for their time. Mm-hmm. They sounded so good. There was so much effort in every detail beyond the performance of the records on the guitar and the piano and drums and so forth. So like my first reinvention was I'm no longer going to go into finance. I guess I'm going to be a DJ. My second reinvention was, okay, like I actually have to learn how to produce my own music and get into the deep science of music production.
Yeah, and the stakes were much higher at that point.
Yes. At this point I was making a lot more money.
Yeah, that's what maybe you saw as like the first reinvention.
Yeah, and I was doing over 100 shows a year, and I was drinking a lot. Touring is tough. Like, not going down that rabbit hole. The Avicii documentary, both documentaries do an amazing job of sort of describing the life of a DJ and why it's different than any other type of musician. It has a blessing and a curse. The blessing of a DJ is you can go anywhere in the world with no equipment and get paid by yourself to perform in front of a huge crowd, right? It's a pretty crazy thing. When you're in a band, you've got a lot of more moving parts and variables. And like, if you're a pop act, you've got all the stage production. If you're a DJ, you just go in the club and you pop something in and everything just starts to work, right? And so the feature of that is it's easier. The downside is it's easier.
Yeah.
AKA you could just get paid any weekend to go anywhere in the world. And like, would you say no? Like there was a time where I remember the first big money show I had, by big money, it's all relative, right? But I got paid $10,000 to open for Wiz Khalifa at University of Connecticut. That was the first time I ever broke in $10,000. Wow. And then we talk about taxes and fees and all the other things because it doesn't end up being $10,000, right? But I think it was like my first Vegas residency, which was like over $1 million residency, just for the shows in Vegas. And, playing like 30, 40 times a year in the same place. And then like, I remember I did 3 shows in one day. Like my touring schedule, I would like go to New York and then go to Asia and then go to Hawaii, go back to Asia, come back here.
Jeez.
But like, you don't know when the money's going to stop flowing. So you just say yes to everything. Like that's what you do. And I have a friend who's like pretty big DJ, and not going to name any names, who's like sort of going through this, like what I went through like 7 years ago now in his career, where he's just like, I have to go do everything. And like, sometimes I don't want to. Like, yeah, that's right. Like you do have to, but I feel your pain. Like, oh my God, it's the dream to go on tour and do all these things for all these big crowds. And like the hidden part of it is like, you're on someone else's time. You're trading a lot of money to be on someone else's schedule, whether that's all the fans in the room or the club promoter or whoever it is. And it is the best feeling in the world to do these big raves and DJ set things. It is also the worst feeling in the world not knowing where you are, what time it is,
Jeez.
and like at all times, right? And then you have to make music. So like now you have to like figure out, okay, when am I going to go home and like focus on this new song idea? Because that's what's going to keep me relevant on the road. And like, when am I going to become irrelevant? And when are people going to stop paying me to play? And when are the fees going to come down? Right. And this happens to literally everyone, unless you're, Jay-Z. It's a different story at the top level, but the whole mid-level of music.
Yeah. You just got to push it.
Popularity comes in waves, and like some artists can reinvent themselves, some can't.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the music business. But, I think, all throughout, right, a big part of my like sort of background business knowledge and having my dad, who I have so much to thank for, drilled hard work ethic into me and like risk aversion into me. I basically took all my DJ money and invested in real estate in my dad's deals that he was doing. Everything. They saved
Wow.
Basically didn't spend money on anything until I was about 30. So I would say when I was 30 years old is when I had my most like frivolous purchase.
Wow. And what was that?
I got a F8 Spider brand new Ferrari, and I was like, holy shit, like this is the most unnecessary thing that might not lose value, right? And like, but yeah, I was flying economy until I was 30. It's just like the grind, save every penny you can, invest it in like stable things. And then like crypto comes along in 2014, and like between 2014 and 2017 is when I got really into it. And all of a sudden this thing just like blows everything else out of proportion. And
so you mentioned you have an incredible story of how you got into crypto. I guess let's hear that.
So in my touring journeys, this is like right after my big hit song came out, or like right around the same time. It was still when SiriusXM was huge. I mean, SiriusXM was still huge, but like the way people discovered new dance music, Spotify hadn't really become a thing. The song came out before Spotify was a thing. Speaking of which, I remember with Spotify, all my mashups were on there for so many years before they got taken down for IP issues. But that also helped me build my audience on Spotify. In 2014, I came out with the song How You Love Me with Heather Bright, who's this fantastic singer who was the unfeatured singer on one of my favorite records by Porter Robinson called Language. It's like one of the most, I think a lot of dance music producers will tell you that Language is probably one of their most modern, like neo-modern influential records, because Porter was an American DJ who just like pushed the boundaries of what was possible with music, the way Skrillex did, but like a little in a slightly more like, I don't know, like Skrillex and Porter was more like indie dance, or like didn't start out that way. It's kind of hard to explain Porter Robinson. He's a jack of all trades artistically, but I just love the vocalist on his song, but she wasn't a featured artist. So I like did the research, figured out who she was, reached out to her. It's like, I need you on this song. And we're still really close friends today. Her name is Heather. She's written songs for Bieber, songs for Beyonce. Like her credits were crazy, but herself as an artist never really exploded the way like all of her songwriting did through other artists, right? And like most people, of course, like when they hear the words being sung, they assume that they were created by the person singing them, even though most of the time that's not the case. So I guess the crypto story. I had just come out with this big song, and I was opening for Calvin Harris on spring break in Mexico. Actually, no. I opened for Avicii, or I was opening for Calvin Harris, but Avicii was playing the night before. And the Winklevoss twins were there. On this Mexico spring break popular destination. Puerto Vallarta at the time was the spot. And the Winklevoss twins were there. They were friends with the promoter who later on, like some of my best friends in the world, this promoter who booked me for all these college shows. At the time, they were Prime Social Group. Now they run this big festival brand that you've probably heard of called Breakaway. And so they were doing this like Electro Beach. The Winklevoss twins were there. I had opened for Calvin Harris. I was opening for Calvin Harris the next night, but I wanted to go to Avicii's show because Avicii was a huge inspiration to me. Never got to spend too much time with him. Only like said hi once or twice. The Winklevoss twins were there, and like the way Adam Lynn, who was running Breakaway, the festival company that used to be Prime Social Group, their business strategy was fantastic. Like the coasts had all this dance music, but the middle of America started to get really into dance music, but like they didn't have as much of it. So they would just bring in all the DJs to all the, like Ohio, Columbus, Ohio was where they were based out of, Chicago, Alabama, et cetera. And so they would do spring break. I met the Winklevoss twins. And I think at some point, Cameron and Tyler realized that like I knew some stuff about finance, and they invited me to stay with them at their place in LA. This is like right after they won the Facebook lawsuit.
Okay.
They just bought
the movie
like,
hadn't come out yet, though.
I don't think the movie had come out yet.
Okay, so they weren't like celebrities or anything yet.
No, I got to be honest. I think it was 20. We could fact check it. I don't know if the movie had come out yet. I don't think it had. I think this was in 2013.
Okay.
This was in 2013, and I could probably look on my phone and find the
movie
exact
definitely
date.
hadn't come out.
Movie hadn't come out. They invited me to their house in LA. They just bought this like crazy, like insane house. Because they built a studio, and Cameron loved dance music, and he was like trying to learn how to make it, which like anyone like should do, right? Now everyone's doing it, right? But at the time, Cameron was super into dance music. He invited me to stay with them for Grammy Week in LA. I met Mark Cuban at the Mark Cuban came by the house at one point. That's when I met Mark, which is crazy. And I was like, my very, very early 20s, right? This was like, I was like 22. And I just had this experience buying a home, trying to buy a home. Couldn't do it because, needed someone else's credit on my dad thankfully co-signed. Put down this, $200,000 down payment on a condo. Went through this crap with the bank, and I was like, I'd heard a little bit about Bitcoin. And this was when Tyler and Cameron were building their own exchange called Gemini. That wasn't built at the time, but I just heard them talking about Bitcoin. I was like, this is fun. And I, instead of doing it at the time, I don't remember if this was post Mt. Gox getting hacked or not, but I basically the Winklevoss twins sort of taught me how to generate my own private key, which is the password to your crypto, to your Bitcoin wallet. And so I used a hexadecimal generator to create my own private key. And then I paid someone $5,000 in cash for 12 Bitcoin in 2014, which is insane. And to this day, I still haven't touched the original Bitcoin.
That's impressive.
But I kind of forgot about it.
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, and then I went way deeper as time went on, right? I became more and more convicted in the technology, whereas in the beginning I was just oh, this banking thing is definitely broken. That I was going to go work in, right? I was investing my money in real estate. I bought a little bit of Bitcoin in 2014. And then in 2017, Ethereum had started to take a little bit of momentum. And I had just gone independent. So I released that big song that did well, came out with Universal, Republic. That's not why it did really well. It's just they won. They won on that record. They made a lot of money on that record. There was a $20,000 budget behind that song, and that's it at the time, which is not a big budget. And so after that record, I basically was screw this, I'm going to go independent. I don't need anybody. And I started distributing my music independently in 2015. Learned a little bit about a lot of the illusions of the music business through that experience. And then Ethereum starts to take off in 2017. I'm still touring, right? So most of my life between 2011 and 2017 is on the road. I think I did 650 shows in those years.
Damn.
And I've done about 850 in my life.
Wow, it's crazy.
It's a lot.
So I know being an independent artist is and just your views on the music industry right now as a whole, I know you have some strong opinions on that. And you mentioned, you alluded to a little bit, but did you feel like you had gotten burned there on a song that you had created? They had made a lot of money off of you? Are you seeing other artists, what is your take on being an independent artist versus the record labels currently and whatnot?
That's that's the biggest can of worms of all. Music is and Justin Kahn said it to me this way. And Justin is an example of an incredible human being who obviously started Twitch and then went on to be a silent contributor to what was the biggest song and dance music last year, a song called Move by Adam Port and Kind Music. But really Justin and one of his producers created the initial idea. Or at least, I don't know the exact path of all of it, but people work on stuff together all the time, right? But Justin, having been a huge supporter of Burning Man, having his own camp there after post Twitch, we had a conversation recently where he said music is a zero-sum late-stage game by design, whereas tech is positive-sum growth stage. And this is exactly why I started shifting my focus a little bit away from music and more towards crypto, because I felt all the things I wanted to do in music required me to make someone else money to see success, which doesn't make any sense. Positive-sum games are the games that I want to be playing, not zero-sum games. And the way music was designed, both from the recording and the live side, there's only so much space on the lineup and there's only so much space on the playlist. And the economics of consumption, pay to consume music, is totally not how it should exist. And this is more of a deeply theoretical conversation. But I guess between 2014 of buying Bitcoin the first time, 2017, discovered Ethereum. And that's what propelled me to holy shit, you can build all this stuff on a blockchain now. Bitcoin is more of a store of value, frictionless value transfer mechanism. coincidentally comes out, right? Like Bitcoin white paper and the mining, like right after the 2008 crisis happens, right? And this is where my second self really started to show, where like from college to being a DJ, I all of a sudden was like, fully focused on the music. One is, making sure that my career as a DJ wouldn't stop out. Like I could keep making money. And then all of a sudden this technology is introduced and I'm like, wow, wait, there might be a solution to all the problems that I've experienced in music. And I want to like follow that. I want to follow that thread because it's like all of my skills, like all the things I've ever learned in my life, music and like math and economics. Like if there's a technology that enables me to combine the two to make the world better, I'm going to follow that. And so I started sort of dabbling in crypto more heavily than just like a Bitcoin purchase, which is how it started in 2014. All of a sudden, now you can build applications on top of blockchains. And I was like, holy shit, this is the answer to all of the pain in music. And I still believe that today, right? Like that. So in 2017 and 2018, I started working on this like crypto music festival project that we actually threw. I got some of my buddies to play. I got Zed to play. And it was the first like big scale version of NFTs. Like this is in 2018. So like NFTs weren't really cool back then. But you could basically claim the digital collectible from the application, from the festival app. And we threw this music festival. I worked with this like amazing engineering shop in San Francisco on it, who built the technology. And like you'd scan, like there were only 50 Blau badges. And if you found me at the festival, you'd scan my QR code and get the Blau badge. And I needed security guards because like everyone was trying to scan it. We threw the festival at Berkeley Theater in SF, which was obviously a place that we should do it because it's tech driven, right? And so I'd worked on like my new album, my first like indie non-pop album came out, and then I was working on this project all between 2017 and 2018. So I was kind of like sick of following the pop thread, but I didn't fully do what I wanted to do. The album that I released, which is the only album I have released, was like some version of like, I still need this to be popular. It was like angst. It was like, I still need this to be popular, but I want more of me in it. And I did that, but I only got like 80% of the way there, I think. And it wasn't until 2019 where I released the first song that I was like truly proud of. Like my whole career. 2019, I released a song called Tokyo. That is like maybe the only song I was proud of up until that.
What was different about that or the process maybe potentially versus others?
I felt like I really pushed the envelope with the production quality and the songwriting. Like there's nothing that sounds like it or had sounded like it up until that time. And the Above and Beyond guys ended up signing that record to their indie label called Injuna, which is like very respectable, awesome label in dance music. On the good side, right? There are lots of great people in music. There's a lot of crime that happens.
Let's touch upon that a little bit. Like what do you see as like the dark side of the music industry? Or would you recommend artists to be independent or sign with labels earlier on in their career? Or
oh boy,
how do you see that?
So like there's this overarching piece, which is that like if we fast forward a little bit in the timeline, everyone is an artist. Like I think the fact that we ever distinguished between someone who is an artist and isn't is wrong. And this goes back to like the ancient Greek language thing where like art and architecture and art and technology are sort of synonymous back then. There weren't different words for them.
Now we have technology doing all the thinking for us.
Yeah.
So now art is being a good artist is definitely a lot easier, so to speak.
Yeah, and so like the way that artistry is changing is so like it's high gamma, which is like my nerdy financial way of saying like the change is accelerating so rapidly with how art is created and how digital content is created that like anyone is an artist. And why? Well, because the gap between idea and execution is thinning. If you want to do like biomedical research, it takes a lot of money, a lot of research, like new medication, stuff like that. Like that's like a different game than like having a musical idea and expressing it, right? Like music existed before written language did. Like people forget this, right? And yet we use written language, which like, by the way, is just like the words that we're speaking are just a way for us to understand each other. But like, they really don't mean anything. It's just like a bunch of like, thousands and thousands of years of history of like human understanding. But like, if someone was a human being and didn't know the English language, they'd have no freaking clue what we were saying right now, right? Now, like, of course, anything can instantly translate on chat, and you can find words in other languages that there aren't even direct translations for in the in this language. You ask, like, what is the new
now
artist?
they're even using AI to try to understand what animals are, how they're communicating with each other.
Makes
pretty
sense.
wild.
It's all data, right?
Yeah.
Like it's insane, right? And like music and film always transcended like the idea of like making you understand or feel something, right? Like you walk out of a really good movie, or you listen to a good song and you're paying attention to the song. It's not like while you're driving, you're like really paying attention to the intention in the song. And like it can make you feel a way that these words will never make you feel, right? It can make the skin crawl off your body if it's the right type of song. And it was those feelings when I was younger that like I wanted to recreate for other people. When I listened to Sigur Rós, a song called Glisoli, it literally made me feel invincible. And
Wow.
like, things that words can't do.
Totally.
Right? And so when I think about like what does the new artist do? Well, I guess part one is I think everyone is an artist. I think part two is it's really difficult to push the boundary on what's been done before, but there's only two ways to do it. Either you create a narrative that catches fire, that becomes really popular and run with it, or you actually push the limit of what's possible musically. And I don't really know what that looks like. But what's been happening in music is the narrative thing, right? It's like it's the lie. It's what I call the lies, which is like the lies are, date back to jazz, where the really, really good jazz musicians didn't even care to record their music because no one knew that someone else wanted to like put a record on a record player and listen to it in their home. Like that wasn't a thing for a really long time. You'd go to the opera, right? Like, so these jazz musicians back in the 20s, it would cost a lot of money to get all the recording equipment for like Capitol Records. And basically the record labels were like VCs, but like really aggressive VCs.
Still are, yeah. I mean, I still see a record label effectively as like a VC industry.
But like, imagine the 1920s record label as the most aggressive VC in that the musician would get paid by the hour and get no earnings of music. Like that's how it used to work. And then Coltrane and a couple of other musicians negotiated for like 1 or 2%.
Wow.
Of the recording income. But like that's how it began. So recorded music and IP come from a place that were never favorable towards the artist. They always favored the institutions. The whole system of like streaming and even Apple Music, like every system of recorded music has only ever been designed with this sort of antiquated institution in mind. And that's the dilemma. So like on the one hand, you have like this, like anyone can be an artist because if you're like everyone is creative, and what really makes you an artist is not creating anymore. It's actually curating. It's like, like when I'm playing the guitar, like people have been playing the guitar for a while. I am creating music when I'm playing the guitar. But what really makes me stand out, or what makes John Mayer stand out, is the nuance. That's curation. And so, and when I'm making a dance music song, I'm like mostly borrowing other people's ideas, right? Like I have all my inspiration that I've gathered over my life. And when I go to sit down and make a new song, it's based on all of that. But now all of a sudden, like the idea of owning an idea doesn't really make sense, especially if it costs you nothing to execute the idea.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening with film, with video, and with music now, where like on the one hand, everyone's an artist, and on the other hand, the existing system is not built to handle that at all. But it's probably net good if everyone could execute their creative ideas. The world probably be a better place.
Well,
right?
Now also, what I'm interested from your perspective as an artist and a DJ, I've been in the music industry. Do you think that, especially DJs specifically, because it's not always your voice, it's not. Do you think that they're concerned with how much the barrier to entry has dropped? Now, literally, anyone can become a DJ and make music, right? Like I have no idea how to make a song right now. I'm sure with AI and all this other stuff, like it wouldn't take me too long to be able to make a song I'm proud of. Are DJs now scared of that? Like, are we going to start just seeing a lot more artists, creating music now? It's like interesting thing to think about.
I think it's definitely already happening, right? There's more artists than ever before.
Totally.
There's more music being generated with AI at a personal level today. This is a stat that is like relatively confidential because I'm an investor in one of the companies that does this. So like the most politically correct way I could explain the stat is there's more music being made by individuals by like thousands of times that actually sounds decent with AI. There's like a factor of thousands difference than the music that's actually being released on Spotify every day.
Wow.
So, and then you get into the part where like a lot of the music on Spotify is now becoming AI. Like AI generated. And I think there's nothing wrong with it.
And it's great music, by the way.
You know, like music is only bad on a subjective level, but music is music. Like there like can be like dissonance in a song that like rubs you the wrong way, right? But like music is a deeply personal thing. It's a form of communication without language.
You know, I kind of think about it almost like a natural diamond versus a lab grown diamond. Like people have controversial views on that. It's like, what does it matter? Actually, a lab grown diamond actually is clear. It might have better color, but it's just not from the ground. Does it matter how it got? You know, it's like actually very similar to, did a human make it or did AI make it?
So this is where like my deepest philosophy stems from, everything you're talking about. And it's why I'm into crypto, why I love watches, why I love music, is in my opinion, all value accrues to provenance. And this is like a very more theoretical discussion, but like the value in any creative or artistic endeavor is mostly in the purity of intention of the person making it. And like, it's not that value can't be created outside of that, but for the same reason, right? Like De Beers just shut down their lab-grown diamond project. Like they were doing lab-grown diamonds, they shut it down. The quartz crisis for watches in the 80s didn't really change. Well, it did in the 80s. Like all the watch companies were like scrambling, right? But then you had J.C. Biver come out and say, screw this, we're not using this new technology. We're staying true to the art form of watchmaking. And that informed the next generation of watchmaking. And like, it's all relevant to this point. Why are watches valuable? Quite literally because of the provenance of the watch, the watchmaker, the brand, all those aspects of the story is what makes a watch valuable in some combination with like human belief and like hallucination, which is like the other side of this, right? But one of the reasons I got so fascinated by watches, it's a completely irrelevant technology that is, believe it or not, 2 times the size of the recorded music business. The watch market is 2 times the revenue of the recorded music business every year. Irrelevant technology, value completely derived from brand, story, provenance, also art and craftsmanship. And so, like, it's not that the lab-grown diamond is bad. It's like, what is the intention of you owning the diamond? And then you can keep digging deeper on the why, right? Like, are you owning this diamond because you like how shiny it is and because it means something to you? Or are you owning this diamond to signal something to someone else? At which point does someone else care if it's lab grown or pure? At which point there are like 8 variables to think about. Like, is this a blood diamond? Was this cleanly sourced? Like the lab grown diamonds are probably shinier. And like, maybe that does matter to the human more than it being, you know, and like this comes from somebody, I just bought my girlfriend a nice real diamond gift, right? But like not for her birthday, but like, you know, these things are all on this like weird scale of how important it is to each individual data point of another person.
But you know, something interesting is like, when you even think about the provenance and emotional connection, something we spoke about, people have an emotional connection to music. I'm starting to see people have an emotional connection to AI.
Yeah.
So it's like now that the human factor might not be as relevant for the emotional connection, right? Especially like you see these stories, people are dating their AI, they're in love with it. I see it, how much it's influencing people. So maybe, you know, people might just not even care. How do you think about as an artist to create that provenance and maybe that like artistic?
Yeah, so I sort of believe all artistic value is derived from the provenance of something. And that's more at a long-term scale, right? Like people remember Marcus Aurelius, like people remember the people that had profound new thoughts in the time that those thoughts were being thought. And there's also like this crazy way that I like you could go deep, like we could talk about like etiology and teleology and all these like different, like some things are not meant for, some things are not designed to spread like wildfire in culture. And those things are really beautiful, but it's really hard to value those things. And this is like where like sort of my fascination in crypto and all these things sort of come together is like, how do you value creativity is such a hard question to answer. But I can guarantee you it's not how we're doing it today. If anything, like real art is probably the closest we've gotten as a species to like valuing the art, right? Because quite literally, most of the value in any piece of art is derived from the provenance of the artist in combination with the instantaneous reaction you get when you look at it.
Yeah.
Right? And art is so subjective.
It's a good point.
Like, I'm not a fan of like, I'm not the biggest Koons fan, but I get it. I'm I am a fan. Like I own some art that like I just bought because I liked it, and it went up a lot in value unintentionally because Elon brought something from this artist. Thank you, X. Ryan is a good buddy of mine who's like, this painting that I bought a long time ago, someone just bought, like some Hong Kong art collector bought the same style painting for like 350 grand. I didn't pay that, right? And it's like, it's all like value is so subjective until it becomes like a human need, like food or shelter or these things, right? And so we've gotten to a point in civilization where like you can automate a lot of the hard shit away, whether it's cooking or DoorDash or Uber or like all these amazing technologies where like we get to be more creative because we don't have to deal with this bullshit. At which point, okay, is like, it's not that AI doesn't necessarily change the value of the provenance. It's like who prompted it. And like, even if an agent prompted another piece of AI software, it all does trace back to someone.
Yeah, because so you're the creator, and these are a tool essentially. Like I saw, even in one of your recent Instagram posts, you were openly promoting the fact that this was made with AI.
Oh yeah,
the video you created.
People get so mad.
Oh, they got mad at that. That was controversial for some people.
Mad, and this is where maybe I gave a lot of context and background, and there's so many stories and so many things. But the reason why I'm here, obviously we became friends through watches, but like this idea of a second self is something that I've grappled for so many years with. And, more recently, all of the things I was afraid of were like sort of forced upon me, right? All the things I was afraid people would say were sort of forced upon me. And it made me think about the world a lot differently. And going back to your question about like AI stuff, the people who like end up making the greatest change are the early adopters of any new technology, whether that's crypto or AI or whatever it is. But everyone always hates it in the beginning because it makes them feel less purposeful. Instead of like going with the flow and finding your purpose in this new world of technology, most people are just like, oh, all the skills I've learned are now completely irrelevant. What am I to do? It's, and that's maybe, who knows why humans are lazy, but on average they are. And like, the American dream, like the original American dream was like all about the hustle and figuring it out. And like, we've lost a little bit of that. Maybe some of it's coming back in culture. But like these tools just make it easier for you to express your ideas. So this music video that I did it with my art director that I've been working with for a decade. We used ChatGPT to spin up a lot of different prompt variations into Midjourney, which is an image generation tool, into 3LAU's, which is this Chinese animation editor. And then we cut it up. My art director ended up arranging all the different clips. If you were to show me this video 5 years ago and asked how much it would have cost to actually film it instead of use AI, I would tell you $500,000 to $1 million because I filmed
crazy
expensive music videos.
No, I saw it. Look, you have to hire all these crazy actors and this.
I wrote the treatment. I did a music video with Gronk because Gronk became a buddy.
And how long did that take?
I wrote the treatment. The AI video took a couple weeks.
Okay, so it still took a lot of time.
Yeah, but it's only going to accelerate, right? It took a couple weeks because we just generated. My art director generated a lot of imagery, and then we had to and then you have to curate it into the final package, right? Because like AI does a lot of times stuff you don't want it to do, and like the best skill that I've learned working with all these different AI, platforms, whether it's Cursor for code or Chat or 3LAU's for animation, is anytime you hit a roadblock, you have to push it, and it will. You just keep pushing it. You say something a different way. You manage it like a human, and it ends up getting you closer to where you want to be. Sometimes it gets stopped. Like I was building a watch valuation scraper in Cursor the other night, and Chrono 24 had like scrape blocking, so I had to like install Selenium, which is like nerdy shit. Now I'm going down the nerd rabbit hole, but like basically you can do anything now, and that's a beautiful thing. Democratizing access to executing creative ideas is like so beautiful and amazing, and people hate it the way they thought the internet was a fad and that newspapers weren't going anywhere. Like who gets a newspaper anymore? Like, I'll never forget this famous viral image. It's like the internet is a passing fad as millions and it's like on a newspaper. And it's like, we resist technology because we feel that it makes us irrelevant. And you ask, like, are all these DJs afraid? I think they deeply are because they have no competitive advantage anymore.
Yeah.
And it's easy to think of that as a bad thing when money's connected to it. But when you remove money, it's actually a beautiful thing, right? All the collaborative opportunities expand. Like, here's an example. I'm working on a new video. So I worked with my art director on my first AI video. My next song that I'm releasing, which is like deeply me, it's so not pop. It's just about the farthest away you could go from what I was doing 10 years ago on the spectrum. Still electronic music. I sent it to Disclosure, one of the guys from Disclosure, who I think are some of the best dance music producers of all time. And I sent him 2 songs, and he was like, dude, this is the one. I love this direction for you. Like, I get so much value out of getting respect from someone else I respect more than the song having 100 million streams. Like, I don't care. If Disclosure likes my song, if Guy from Disclosure likes my song, holy shit, that is weighted heavily as compared to whatever fake number is a ticker on the internet. And
the evolution within what you just said there is pretty profound for you, even as an artist, in terms of what is success.
And this is where like money in my career and my sort of background, financial knowledge, crypto, all these things sort of intersected recently at this moment, which is part of the reason why I wanted to come on the show and watch a bunch of your other episodes with some people that I've never actually met in person, but I've heard a lot about. And it's like fun seeing Charlie talk and like, never having met him in the past. Now we follow each other on Instagram, but we haven't said anything yet. I'm sure I'll talk to him at some point. But you said, so like AI opens up all these new collaborative opportunities. And like this is happening in real time for me as a 34-year-old man, the same way I'm watching this 13-year-old kid that I know that's now 16, creating a new sport and getting Tom Brady to talk about it with AI, collaborating with his friends with AI. It just democratizes everything. Information has been gated, especially in the music business. The music business is basically just a giant black box. And something is going to break it open, whether it's crypto or AI or whatever it is. It's still pretty closed. I've made it sort of my life mission to open that black box. But I'm taking a long-winded route to get to this example of like how AI enhances collaboration. Because it's actually happening in real time to me. So this new song is called Will You. I created my own website with some help from one of my front-end engineers, actually, and they did a lot of the work. I just had the like structural architecture of the website. I created my own website, deployed it, learned DNS stuff at a very basic level, and like wanted to create a content management system, CMS, so that I could upload my own music to my own website with version control, and anyone can access it with a password. Because like screw the other old distribution mechanics. I just like want to be able to share my ideas as I'm making them with the people that care about my music. And so I sent this to one of my buddies that I play Fortnite with, which is how I sort of cleanse my brain at night. Because it forces you to be off your phone, right? When you play a video game, like you literally can't get distracted if you want to play well. And so I play Fortnite with one of my friends who's a fantastic painter. I actually own one of his art pieces. Incredibly talented oil painter. Like all he's been doing, or not all he's been doing in his adult life, but he's poured hours of craftsmanship into his work. And I showed him a couple of AI things. He's like, I'm going to learn this. And
wow.
He made a video. I gave him some feedback, and he's just getting better and better and better. And he's a painter.
Wow.
He just has great taste. Right?
Yeah.
He's a curator.
Yep.
This goes back to the curation versus creation.
That's interesting.
AI just forces you to.
It's like everyone has this tool. Now more people have access, but there'll still be the curators, and that will never go.
Right.
Yeah.
Curators, like AI will, like the algorithm is already curating the music that you hear, but doesn't it mean so much more when a human tells you to go listen to something? Like it means more. They might not be right, by the way.
Yeah.
But a human can make a recommendation to you about a song or about a piece of art or about an experience in a way that the reviews online or the algorithm maybe can't, because of like quite literally body language. How I look at you, how I look directly at you in the eye when I say, I think Chris is one of the best painters I've ever met. And I've seen a lot of art at Art Basel that sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he's an underrated, incredible curator. And so now he has access to this AI software. Mind you, it's a little bit expensive. So I like pay for all the subscriptions. I give him access to this OAuth Gmail account. And he starts making this music video. The first one was sick. The second one, oh my God. Like his second video that he's ever made.
This you haven't released this yet.
No, we haven't released this. It's the next video that I'm going to release. So the first one I made with my trained art director, incredible. Now you have a painter, trained artist, never trained digitally, like not trained, what's the word? Not known or recognized professionally for being a digital artist. Now, through his taste, can create something profound and truly incredible. Like the first draft he sent me, I was like, just mind blown, right? Like this is an amazing technology it's an enabling technology. And people are viewing it as as a sort of replacing technology. People are viewing it negatively because they are afraid of their own skills getting. They spend all this time learning this, and so
I'm sure a lot of people will get replaced too.
they probably will. But I think this is sort of a good thing because it sort of forces humans to learn other things.
Yeah.
Right? It forces humans to find other ways to create value.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day, comes back to the beginning of this conversation, is that money is like a way of keeping score. It also unlocks experiences. In the end, you want to have an impact. You want to affect someone else's life positively. If Nick, who invented sperm racing, if this becomes a new sport, like, I might make some money because I've invested. But like, the like sort of intention behind it is like bringing awareness to male fertility beyond the stigma of sperm, which like honestly is actually pretty good, right? Like the first sperm race was a UCLA athlete and a USC athlete. And these 16-year-old kids, like, they have access to these tools that people in our generation, and I think we're like close to the same age, right? Like, we just didn't, like, I had some music software that enabled me to become a DJ, but I didn't have Chat GPT in high school.
Yeah.
And like, people are viewing these things as so negative. And like, you give humans tools and they can build incredible things. And that's what I'm so bullish on for humanity. I think like, and there's a great blog post by my friend Packy McCormick. The title of the blog post is Most Human Wins. And it quite literally means that like, all of technology is just augmentation. It just augments the things that are already human, right? And like AGI probably, like maybe the robots serving you McDonald's, or like dropping, like McDonald's getting dropped on your doorstep by a drone, everyone living in like some like Ready Player One type simulation. All those like futures are like probably likely, but humans will always find a way to stand out when they really want to, when they're motivated to, when they care about art, when they push themselves beyond that level of comfort. And that's where, you know, for me, Second Self is like meaningful, because I've been all of these things, and I always thought that like basically the world didn't really understand that I was in finance and a DJ, and then also like did crypto stuff, and then also like I do play the piano, even though I'm not the best pianist in the world. And so I've sort of grappled with like the world's perception of who I am, because it has to categorize. The world has to categorize you. Like, when you meet someone for the first time, oh, what do you do? Well, you only have a limited amount of time to tell them what you do.
Yeah, you can't list off everything I said at the beginning.
I can't go through the whole.
Well, you can, but it just, even to me, I don't like,
It's just too inefficient to.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's like a little braggy. It's like, oh, little all these things you do.
When you introduce yourself to someone,
you're right. It's kind of like designed to pigeonhole you.
The English language is just limiting, right? Like,
yeah.
If like, this is how deep I go with Chris, Chris is my artist friend who paints and then also is making this AI video. We are playing video, like, this is the level that I think on in terms of like how crazy and insane I am. And I like, this is like me being self-aware of how like ridiculous I am. I'm playing with Chris, we're playing Fortnite. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we both had BCIs that were like properly encrypted, where we could share thoughts while we're playing so that we weren't talking.
What is a BCI?
Brain computer interface, sorry.
Okay.
So we both have BCIs in. We have unique encryption so that only he can hear my thoughts, right? And we're just fucking gaming. And it's so much more efficient for me to think and for him to feel or hear my thought in his brain.
That's very intimate of you guys.
For us to speak. That's how intimate we get, right? And like, you know, we get that intimate as we're playing Fortnite. I'm a super nerd. Like, I fully acknowledge this, right? But when you meet someone and you shake their hand, like you can't instantly show them everything you've seen and everything you've experienced. And so like, who are you, right? Is sort of an illusion at a surface level, right? We classify things as humans because it is quite literally just easier for us to. You know, it's easier for us to form an opinion when there is a classification. Most of the time, that stereotype or that opinion has some truth.
And it's also what the norm is.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right? So it's like when you're outside the norm, it's weird and hard to explain. Therefore, you're trying to see yourself in that, and you might have a little confusion asking yourself, what am I? Can I do all, it's just like and it's something I go through myself. So it creates an interesting dilemma. So for yourself, especially as you were going through the challenges of DJ to really successful entrepreneur and all these things, going back to like what we spoke about, being able to do it all, is what you're saying, and being comfortable with that.
It's being comfortable with it's in a way it's doing it all and being comfortable that like other people may not understand, want to, or judge you for all the things that you care, like any combination of things that you care about. If you're true to them, you just have to accept the fact that someone else is going to judge you for it. And this happened.
And it doesn't. It doesn't matter. And remaining true to yourself is the name of the game.
And so, like, we go from being a DJ to crypto stuff. Then I started a crypto company. So, putting my ego on full display, one of my proudest accomplishments outside of Tokyo, which was a song I made in 2019, on an artistic level, I'm just like really proud of it. It didn't get big. It got moderately big. You know, the other DJs that I respected loved it. That's what mattered the most. That's when I began to realize that like the millions of numbers on the screen and the views and these like this like instant dopamine of like numbered thing that happens on the internet isn't what creates fulfillment. Same thing as the S-curve with money and happiness. It's all like what creates fulfillment. And when I started the company, I felt that I needed to now abandon my life as a DJ because I needed to be a serious CEO. And that was, you know, this is now fast forwarding from 2017, I discovered Ethereum through this music festival. We raised some money. I returned the money because it didn't work. I mean, the festival worked, but like we couldn't scale it. And then I went back to DJing and then COVID hit. And then COVID, I was like basically full-time crypto because I couldn't DJ. But COVID also taught me that I was like kind of tired of DJing in the sense that like I'd just been on tour for so many years. Now I was with my family. I just bought a house with a backyard.
Yeah, you had space for the first time.
I got so lucky buying my home here in Vegas. I bought it in December of 2019, like right before COVID hit. I was in a building. I was in a condo. So like that didn't end up doing as well. But and ended up selling the condo to one of my now friends who I set up with my other DJ friends, and they're dating. It's like the world is so small. But starting the company, all of a sudden now I'm like, okay, I went full circle from studying finance to being a DJ to be partially in crypto to going back to managing a company. Not even just to the external world, but now I have employees who, anytime I made music, I felt guilt because I wasn't doing my job. Like, why is he spending his time doing, like I felt, and this is really the reason I came on this podcast and why the name of the podcast, you know, made so much sense. And then I watched, you know, obviously you and I are friends through the group chat and all these things. And, you know, we got to meet in person in Miami and I got to see some of your other guests. But the real resonance of Second Self to me was starting the company and feeling like I couldn't do both things because the world didn't want me to. And I actually was in a rut with that for 3 years.
Wow.
I would say 3 years I was not artistic. I couldn't find the time. I tried to block it out on my calendar. I just was uninspired, and I was mostly just, I could have done it. I was mostly just worried about what people would think if I was spending my time doing it.
And how did you make amends with that eventually? Because it sounds like you're at peace with where you're at now.
Yeah. So this is relatively recent, right? So I turned 34 in January. And my birthday was the day the Palisades fires hit. Terrible. I know 3 people who lost their homes. Like one of my close friends. And it was on my birthday. And I was going to announce my rebrand on my birthday, which was just going to be moving the 3 to the B in Blau, which I put the 3 in my name back in the day for SEO purposes because Blau means blue in German, and I wanted people to be able to find my music on Google and on the internet. So I put a 3 in it to make it distinct. Also partially inspired by deadmau5, also part of the story because I love deadmau5 and I was friends with him. I don't know. That's the best part of the story that's coming up. But starting the company, my co-founder was one of my friends in college, the same guy that booked me for the Crown Royal bottle. We started this company together. It worked, and then it didn't. You know, the original idea worked, and then it didn't. And then it could work again. We built something else. We spent a year building something else that's like really powerful, but maybe too early. Provenance protocol, like really nerdy stuff that, you know, maybe we don't talk about now. But the company's called Royal. We raised money before we had a product. Mostly not seeking it, mostly because other people wanted to give it to us, which is such a privilege and a blessing that people put their trust in us to build something. And then we had a lot of momentum. I mean, we launched by selling fractional ownership in in 2 Nas records that crushed it back then and are still crushing it for the people that bought it today. We did ownership in a Diplo record called Don't Forget My Love that obviously went really huge. The idea behind Royal was like, decentralizing the record label. Like, what if the fans were your record label and could own the music with you and be real promoters of the music beyond the algorithm? Like, this is, we started the company 4 years ago. That idea worked actually for a little bit. We had insane usership. And then when SBF sort of crushed crypto, like entertainment and culture just completely disowned crypto. So like NFTs were the first time crypto hit mainstream culture. And then they just as quickly left with SBF when it was like a scam again. But worth mentioning, like one of my biggest accomplishments, I didn't even get to this. I made this song called Tokyo, and then I also designed the largest independent auction of all time by miles, and didn't know this until I asked ChatGPT, who created like the biggest independent auction, not Sotheby's, Christie's, or any auction house, but like independent, like completely independent. And it said me, and I was like, that's insane. What an accomplishment. I'm like, I was so proud in that moment when Chat told me that. I was like, damn, like my economics degree paid off, right? And in all these moments, we just, at least for me, so what ended up happening, and I know I'm probably like answering the questions as we go here, but on my birthday, I don't do podcasts a lot, if you can't tell.
Well, first off, why did you feel, because you mentioned wanting to rebrand, why did you even feel the need to rebrand initially?
I had been out of the game for a while. I was ready. Some of the newer stuff I was making finally felt like it was meaningful. I like made music in pieces and parts, and my engineer, who I make music with, was just kind of coming up with stuff on his own for a little bit. It was all really good. Just like now we're actually taking some of the stuff that he came up with and matching it to my new style. In these 3 years where like I really didn't do anything at all. But I was kind of just ready to like drop the 3. It was like sort of a marketing thing, and then sort of a just like being truly who I am. But even at that point in time that I decided it, and I was going to do it on my birthday, the other part of the story is like Rufus Du Sol, who are friends of mine and like one of my modern, like incredible electronic music group in terms of like the uniqueness and the level of engineering and everything that they do. They're unbelievable in every way. Their agent and I had a conversation in late January the fires hit on my birthday. Obviously I wasn't going to announce a rebrand when that was too close to home. Then I get invited to DJ the official Trump inauguration after party, which I humbly accept, after sort of declining an opportunity to play at the RNC previously, because I political affiliations aside, like I didn't want to be. So I'm pretty libertarian, like not pretty. I'm 1000% textbook libertarian for the most part. But I get invited to play inauguration. The fires had just happened. I'm obviously going to play the official presidential after party. Like it doesn't matter who the president is, right? All politics aside. And I'm proud of this, right? Like I'm proud of this moment. Say what you will about any political party. I have like this sort of like deep relationship with crypto where like I think crypto matters more than like most other things in the long run, because like if like crypto is a democratizing economic force, and most of the problems that exist are because people are indirectly placed in really economically disadvantaged positions, whether that's from the banking system or whatever other reason. And so like you have like, Elizabeth Warren, who's like the biggest enemy of crypto, and Gary Gensler, who's the biggest enemy of crypto. All the innovation that I've wanted to create with music and crypto, like basically unclear how legal it is, what you can do, what you can't do. And then you have a future president that basically promises, we're going to give crypto a chance, which I believe is the most important force to make this country a better place. Which like a lot of people can argue about that. It's like also something that I can personally impact, right? Like now all of a sudden I know people in the administration. I can use my experience as a musician to hopefully make the world better for the next generation of musicians because I have access, right? And so I play the inauguration after party to a very funny crowd. Bezos was there, Vivek was there, everyone was there. It was really fun. And I post about it. Funny enough, I'm new to watches. The dealer in town here, my paddock dealer here, to commemorate this occasion, gets me the new Cubitus, which also had a lot of backlash when it came out, but it turned into one of my favorite watches from Paddock, and I just got into watches. So like I have this watch. I'm wearing this watch to this very controversial, the most controversial gig of my life, and like basically all the things that go wrong, right? Like I posted about it online, and then Deadmau5 who's known to be the biggest internet troll. And I don't even hate him for this because I know him too well to like he's just getting attention. And he just like shits on me in the comments.
You think that was a troll? He was?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
And everybody knows him well enough to know that he's doing it for his own attention. And mind you, he's like in my DMs like 5 years earlier asking me crypto questions, right? Like, and we were like relatively friendly. I mean, there was this one time that I saw Joel, this is his real name in person, and I went to go give him a hug, and he looks at me, he's like, "Don't do that, dude." And I like puts his hand out. I'm like, I don't think I've ever experienced anyone. Like, I know this guy. Like,
yeah,
we've talked a lot. Like, I love his music. Like, one of the best electronic musicians of all time. Total fucking asshole. That's okay. Like, whatever. But what happens is this spirals, right? And he comments on it. And then like all of a sudden, you know, I've tried to do such a good job of like not doing anything stupid on the internet in my life. I really have. And then like all of a sudden, all the things, all the insecurities that could ever be said were said. And my girlfriend actually had a harder time with it than I did. It was bad. I mean, it also got more impressions than anything I've ever done musically or not. All these other DJs piled on and started being like, you know, this is anti-dance. I mean, you name the bad thing they could have said, they said it. I think Deadmau5's the best line was "Nepo piss baby," was in there, and it got like 60 million impressions. Like this, and like now, like all these people are texting me and this and that, and that's when I decided I just wanted to rebrand as my actual full name instead of just my last name, because it's like the new music is distinct, and like I'm just me, a CEO and a DJ and a music producer and an investor. I have 50 portfolio companies, and I love art, even though I'm really bad at painting, and I love fashion, even though I don't know shit about fashion. I wear fucking black clothes all the time, mostly to make one less decision. But I can appreciate fashion on other people, right? And like all these things, all these interests, right? I'm just me.
That sounds pretty powerful to get to that place.
Yeah, and it was almost out of like a, you know, when all of your insecurities are like posted on the billboard and you're looking at them, they all of a sudden they become less scary. Because you're always afraid of them coming out. There's like no secrets, right? It's more you're afraid of someone else saying, "Oh, your parents are rich." Guess what? My parents are wealthy. I wouldn't categorize them as very rich, but my dad had to grind, and we moved to Vegas with, you know, when I was 13 and we moved to Vegas. I mean, without going too deep on the numbers, like my parents were upper middle class family. My dad hustled to kill it for our family, and my little brother is extremely successful. My sister's extremely successful. I think it's because my dad was just, my parents were like really hard on us in a good way. My sister's the #1 female realtor in Nevada. She did 100 million in volume last year.
Wow.
In real estate. And my little brother also left BlackRock to go work at my investor, Andreessen Horowitz, and is now actually working with me at my company. So, you know, my parents sort of drove us to work really hard. I invested in all my dad's real estate deals as I started DJing. And like people will, from time to time will be like, "Yeah, well, you were comfortable, so you could go be a DJ. Like you were already comfortable, so you could take that risk."
Yeah.
Actually, my parents didn't support it, and I had to get my economics professor to convince them that it was okay to let me drop out. Right? Like it was like sort of the opposite. But all of a sudden, all of other people's, like people can keep their opinions. It doesn't matter as long as every morning you wake up, you feel like you're becoming better and you're doing something.
Your relationship with yourself. Happy with yourself. You go to sleep happy with yourself.
And when I released this first song as Justin Blau, which happened last week, and we released this music video, and like some employees at the big streaming services like just didn't really get back to me very fast on like this announcement. I don't have a manager. I'm just like, you know, my priority is my company, and now my music is fun. It's not, my music is not created for the intention of like being in the rat race.
Yeah, you don't have how you started. You don't need your music to pay your mortgage anymore.
I did.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that I
anymore. Currently.
I feel
so your
lucky.
Yeah, it changes everything.
And hopefully that makes the art better.
Yeah.
But I still want to DJ. I don't have to DJ for the like big ass crowd with the big ass pictures. Like I want to create new experiences, something different. Designing my own visuals with AI, triggering them while I'm DJing. Like I'm trying to innovate in that sense. But once I became just my given name, and it was actually not even my idea. It was actually Rufus's agent, Alex Beckett. His cousin is Ross Ulbricht, who was pardoned by Trump, and he was like, "You should just be Justin Blau." because your music is pretty different. He's like, this is way different than your old stuff. If you were just your full name, that's even more of a change than just Blau from the 3 to the B. And so that's where, like, you know,
That's interesting. Yeah.
it was his idea. We were on the phone. He's like, send me the new music. I sent it to him. He listened to it. He's like, dude, this is crazy. I did not expect this from you. I think you should be Justin Blau. It was like some abridged, like it was longer than that. But
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Like,
And it just makes sense because Justin Blau is the, like you said, the CEO, the entrepreneur, the crypto, and the current artist and DJ.
it's all the
So it all
things-
intertwines.
It's all the things I've done
And it's just you.
and will do.
Yeah.
It's all the things I've done and will do. It's not, it is who I am by nature, but it's all back to for the other thing I said. It's like, do you want to be someone or do you want to do something? I always want to do something. And the things I do are like very different. But at the end of the day, it's like, my intention was like partially financially driven for a big portion of my life because it needed to be. I needed to know that I did it myself. I needed to, the math nerd in me, like I had a number in my head and I was like, this is the risk-free rate. Can I live comfortably with this amount of liquidity at the risk-free rate, just earning interest at 4%? When the answer was yes, everything else is a bonus. You know, that's how I encourage a lot of people when I'm giving like wealth advice and like what number is, like, you know, all this shit that people talk about online. It's like, figure out what you spend to be comfortable every year. Figure out how to get there risk-free with interest. And then the rest is a bonus and like have fun.
Yeah. I mean, if you get there, then that's true financial freedom.
That's freedom.
Yeah. That's freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the upper bound of the S curve where, you know, me and some of my other friends who all have done really important, incredible stuff, not famous people, but founders of tech companies, designers.
And hopefully that once you get to that point, some people realize that optimizing your life solely for money is stupid.
Yes.
And doesn't matter, right?
Solely for money, yes.
Once you have the freedom, if you're still sacrificing the things that make you happy, like that, to me, that's
It's
a
crazy.
sickness at that point.
The thing to
And a lot of people do
optimize-
that.
So many people do it.
Most people still do that.
I think there's like an emptiness in those people, right? Like they use their success for their purpose, which by the way, I don't think that's a bad thing. There are a lot of people that I know who do that, who I have deep respect for. And then there's Justin Kahn, who had a lot of success and just like wants to push the boundaries on art. And like you know, or like Fred, one of my friends who started Coinbase and is an investor in my company, who is now building, you know, non-invasive brain computing interfaces to like push humanity forward, right? Like these are the people that I love to associate with and that I've befriended over the years who push me to be a better person, who push me to make a bigger impact. And, you know, the only way to do that is just being you. And it sounds so freaking cheesy to say it, but like the second, you know, so yeah, this dead mouse thing and shitting on me online and all this stuff, it really did, like at first it was really bad. Like it was like almost like I had a concussion when I was in a coma for like 24 hours from a ski accident when I was a kid. And like, it was like pretty rough. After that, I was like 16. It felt like that. I felt like I got hit by a truck. Like all of a sudden, like everybody hates me, especially when other DJs started to pile on. Like people who were friends of mine.
I think especially when you probably didn't maybe see it happening. It's like the aftermath shock.
My girlfriend warned me.
Okay.
She was right. She warned me about it.
Well, how about this? If you could do it again, would you do it? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, it's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Who it is. You know, like we've like lost a lot of pride as a country, and it has nothing to do with either side of the political party. But like what we've done, what our parents did to put us where we are, like we at our age, like if you're in your 30s, if you're anyone listening to this in your 30s, you have like some pretty deep experience to still make a huge. We got many more years. We're gonna live longer than everyone else. The life expectancy in the 20s was like 50 or 60 or something. Like life expectancy just keeps expanding. Then you've got guys like Brian Johnson who are like literally dedicating the rest of his life to figuring this stuff out, right? How do we make our lives longer? So like we in our 30s have insane opportunity to create impact. It's not too late at all. Kids or no kids, whatever state of life you're in, like we still have a lot of time. Our parents didn't have as much time. The internet barely existed, you know, when they were entering their adult life. They didn't have access to information like we do. And so, yeah, I mean, it's wasting your time to not just do what you want to do. Because you can. Like there's this famous phrase in like crypto that's thrown around a lot. It's like you can just do things. If it doesn't work, who cares? Like no people mostly brag about the stuff that works. They never talk about the stuff that doesn't.
Yeah.
I would say like 99 out of every 100 things I tried definitely doesn't turn out the way I intended it.
Yeah.
But this one actually just did this one thing of playing Inauguration to change my whole life in a way that I never expected, in that it made me the most self-aware I've ever been.
Wow.
And it wasn't like doing a drug or anything. Like some people, it's ayahuasca. Some people, it's their company goes public and whatever. All the money aside, going up and down, this one moment of people talking shit just made me realize how much I didn't care.
Wow.
But how much I care what you think, because I have a lot of respect for you, or I care what Disclosure thinks. The weight of someone else's opinion will always matter if you respect them. But if it's just a number on a screen, there's no way to measure the depth of what they actually think about you. Because it's quite literally just could be a bot, right? Which is why I love crypto, but that's another can of worms. But yeah, so that was the story that we were building up to. I feel like the Inauguration story, and why I chose to go by my given name, and why all my future music is just going to be what I feel like doing. And there are a couple of artists that have done this really well, like Fred again. Like, oh my God, incredible musician, just does whatever the hell he wants. In a way, he sort of inspired me. Like, I love his music, but his personality like inspired me to just like, say fuck it.
I mean, yeah, I've been to his concerts. He's literally creating a song at a live concert where people want to hear the hits. And even me as a fan, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I'm not used to this. Like, play the hits. But that's, to me, is remaining true to yourself to the highest degree. And there is like some respect. I mean, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I respected it.
Okay.
Because I was like, I just want to have fun.
Right.
I'm not here to have like a respect for the creative process right now. But I was like, it's super dope of this guy to have the courage to just create something, you know, kind of like on the spot like that. It was interesting. But so now on this topic, we've mentioned how you got here, changed the name to Justin Blau, and I think now more than ever, how would you say that creative, call it integrity, means to you in this current, not just creative, but like everything you do now? And remain, and now especially, you've gained this self-awareness to understand what being true to yourself means.
I think what my favorite artists did so well for me is they told an emotional story that was, you know, ineffable with words, right? Like truly ineffable. And when music does that, it's just something like it happens in film. Like, damn, like Oppenheimer hits, undeniable. Oppenheimer hits. Like there's some stuff out there, like certain, like I love anime and animated stuff. Like Demon Slayer hits. Like these artistic expressions, and I bring up anime because it's like you're reading the words on the screen, you're reading the sub. At least I do. I don't do dub, and like this culture is like forced upon you through animation that like human actors could never do, right? Like some of the stuff in like Tokyo Ghoul and Demon Slayer, like if you were to try to recreate that in live action, it would be way too expensive, right? And so like any art form that like really pushes the boundaries of making you feel something is what I love. I also, you know, while I'm making the music that I want to make, I'm still running the company.
Yeah.
It's challenging to do both. It's been 4 years since I started. You know, my more experienced operational co-founder, who I'm still very close friends with, he left 18 months into the company. So I basically spent the second year of the company and the third year of the company learning how to be a CEO. I'm still not very good. I'm not. I'm a better investor than I'm a CEO. I got to be honest. I think being a CEO, being a founder of a company.
Being a CEO fucking sucks. It's the worst.
I hear it does and it doesn't. Like it's one of those things where like it's another one of those things where when it's good, it's amazing, and when it's bad, it's just really bad.
Yeah.
It's just really bad. Because you're dealing with things that are out of your control and you're just doing your best.
Yeah.
And like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people shit on a founder or a CEO online for whatever. Like you have no clue what that person is going through.
Yeah.
Like the regular user of a product has no clue. I was victim to this. When the Bitcoin Cash fork happened, I like had some money stuck. It was a significant amount of money stuck in Coinbase. And I like yelled at Brian about it on Twitter. Now we're like friends. But like at the time I was like, God damn it. Like, you know, like no one knows how hard it is. No one knows.
So we spoke a little bit about it now. We're going full circle, but kind of like in this version of you, what does success now mean in how you live your life and the whys behind it? Because you still have the company, the crypto, all these other different, getting really deep into AI, it sounds like. Like, how do you see your life in terms of like, what does success mean? Especially you have all the money in the world, you've accomplished so much, like.
All the money in the world is interesting. There are some things I don't have enough money.
Well, no. All the money, at least
on a personal standpoint. Yeah. I think like when I think about money now, I'm mostly thinking about it as like, if I wanted to build this, how much would it cost? It's just like where my mind goes. Right?
Yeah. When you get there, there's never enough. But like you have enough
on a personal level. Yeah. There's no marginal thing that could give me really that much more happiness. And that's a very lucky. And that's where we started, right? Like where I feel so lucky to be on the other side of the S curve where I want people to know what I did, not how much money I have. It doesn't really fucking matter. And I think that I guess I sort of have two goals. And I hope that over the rest of my life, I hope that I can achieve them simultaneously, which is I want to make art that deeply impacts people the way Burial and his album Untrue impacted me.
Wow.
The value that I could ascribe to that album, Untrue, which maybe a lot of the listeners and like people might not know, it's like it made in my formative years as a musician, it made me want to experiment. Like the world told you to be a rock star, and Burial taught me I didn't need to be the best guitarist, which I wasn't. I'm a decent guitarist. I'm a decent pianist, but I'm a great engineer. So like, how do I take my talent and apply it to the music that I create? On the musical side, I want to create art that's deeply impactful. And however many people it reaches, I still really want it to reach people, but it will do its thing. On the company side, I'm going to keep trying things that give musicians the power they deserve in the industry. The way, there's this weird relationship between distribution and independence and giving something up to get more eyes or more impressions, or whatever it is. And I didn't do that. And I somehow made out okay. It was really challenging. And, I feel so lucky to have like traveled so many places and gone to DJ for these big crowds and made these songs and met all these people. And I'm really thankful for it. But like the thing that like I could be honest about is like, I used to take a shit ton of prescription drugs to cope, never hard drugs, but I alternated Adderall, Ambien, Xanax, drinking, you name it, just to cope with the speed of life. And, that's something that I've like definitely more recently, like over time, I've been like weaning off. I'm like very low doses of everything, but I still take stuff. I'm honest about it. Like I still take, 5 to 10 milligrams of Adderall instead of the 20 extended, or I'll take a little bit of Ambien and I try to come off the Xanax because that shit's really bad for you. It's all probably bad for you, or maybe it's not. I mean, Huberman has a better idea of that than I do. Don't trust my medical advice, please. But yeah, I think my goal on the company side is to create an environment like where the value of creativity can be truly explored, where people can achieve their maximum potential with their music. And I don't think there's a way to do that without crypto. And that's why I started a crypto company. And so our first idea was your fans are your record label. It actually worked for a second. Then the perception of crypto made it not work. It was kind of sad, right? Like imagine like, but it's not the first time it's happened. Like I've done a lot of things that have worked and then stopped working. Like nothing really stands the test of time except for music. Companies don't. You look at like, I mean, my favorite example is like, I think it's Tumblr that was like bought by Yahoo for 300 million and then sold off for like 5, like, or something like that. Like companies change because there's so many people involved. Humans are involved in the long-term success of a company. But like whether Amazon wins in the long run or not, Bezos is still a freaking hero. Like, oh my God, he's made everyone's life so much easier. I can't imagine my life without Amazon. It saves me so much time.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's the best.
Like what a guy, right? Like incredible accomplishment to have created so much value for human beings. So like on the music side, music is now my way of like.
So being able to do that for musicians, to have that.
Musicians and anyone creative. Really,
any creators. That's dope. That's a cool, interesting way to think about it.
What crypto does is it democratizes the economics of things and like strips away all of the barriers, right? Like if you want to send money to Vietnam, it costs you $25. Why? When I went into the bank and I almost lost my condo because I had to go into the bank to send a wire, and there was no one in the bank branch that had high enough authorization at my ripe age of 20 years old.
That's crazy.
$200,000 wire, which I had.
Yeah.
You know,
And it was your money.
my first year
And no one had authorization. Yeah.
Well, I'm a spoiled brat. When I was 20 years old, I made $890,000 my first year when I was 20.
First year.
Yeah. And that was like the
Jeez.
beginning, right? And so
That's insane.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, especially as a DJ, first, like, normally people take a long,
But
if ever.
I'm thankful to my parents for like I never really bought anything material until I was 30, and then I started dabbling in the material things, and I took my dad for his birthday to a Ferrari race class, and
Corso Pilota. I did that as well.
You did it, and then to me it just like made me feel like, oh shit, if I want to race cars, I gotta fucking learn a lot more, and it changed my whole perspective on cars.
Yeah,
where like cars are marketed to be like really powerful, but like someone could whoop your ass in Porsche if they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like stuff. And so, I don't even know how I landed on that, but what was I talking shit?
we were talking about success, but wrapping it down now, I think we need many, many, many more hours to get into all of yourselves. There's so much stuff we didn't even get into yet. But to wrap it up at this, if Justin Blau could have a message for DJ Blau just dropping out of college and had so many uncertainties and unknown ahead of him, what would he tell him?
There's two versions of this answer. There's the very real and candid, please sleep more. I'm an awful sleeper, and I'm just learning, like meditate, like whatever voodoo you need to do to like clear your mind. I think it's like really important. Sleep is so important. And when I was younger, I was just better at getting around without sleep. I was forced to, but like now my brain stops working at a certain hour and I feel old. But yeah, sleep more is the practical advice I'd give my younger self. The philosophical advice is I don't know. There's like two versions of myself giving my previous self this advice, right? Like on the one hand, I would say I probably didn't have as much fun or freedom through like, damn, I was on tour. I was playing in Thailand and playing here and doing this and doing that. So like I got to enjoy life, but I was always worrying about the next thing. And if I could like if I could tell my previous self to live in the moment a little bit more, I would. But then I would also juxtapose that with the other side of me, which is like work harder.
Wow. Even with 100 shows a year, it wasn't enough.
Not working harder on more shows, but like I think when I say work harder, what I really mean is try to find focus.
Okay.
That's a better way of saying it. Because working harder doesn't always get you where you need to go. Focus is, I think, the most challenging thing anyone can do. It takes real talent to be able to focus on doing one thing as perfectly as it can be done. There's this great Will Smith quote that Will Smith is like, I was never the best actor, but I didn't set out to build a brick wall. I laid one brick as perfectly as a brick could be laid. And then eventually I had a brick wall. Everybody wants overnight success. Everybody. All of this success, whatever you want to call it, and there's still a lot more I need to do, came from time. Just being consistent, being persistent, and being focused. Because today in 2025, you have more distractions than ever before. My girlfriend will tell me something that's going on in the world. This probably, like 10 years ago, I think I was an ignorant asshole. Something that's going on in politics. If no one's dying of disease and struggle, I don't care. Not because I don't want to care, but because I can't.
There's so much.
Because I will not do my best work.
Yeah.
And I hope my best work creates good in the world. So it's like ignorant on the one hand, right? Like I don't want to know about this thing, that thing, it goes back to the GPU plant.
It goes back to the focus piece.
So the advice I'd give myself is to live in the moment more, but also not to work harder. It's the wrong way of saying it. Correcting myself because I don't do podcasts often. It's find your focus as much as possible and follow the focus. And what I'm going to do tonight is I have goals. I've finished the song that this music video is being made of. I need to make some artwork with AI with some style referencing. I hope I come up with something I like. If I don't, I'll try it again tomorrow. You have to give yourself a little bit of leeway with focus, right? And then I'm probably going to go to sleep early because I did not sleep well last night. So all these things sort of combined.
Awesome. Well, this was an awesome conversation. I learned so much from it. Like I said, there's so much we didn't even get into about
to the people viewing it. Forgive the like slight tism and my blinking. Like I have like weird mannerisms. I don't do this very often, right? I'm pretty introverted, so forgive the tism.
But no, I learned so much. I mean, I think that you dropped a lot of wisdom about your experiences and your story, and being able to remain true to yourself. I think that, like, especially when you have so many eyeballs looking at you, I think it's really hard to do, and I think it's really admirable. So, I'm sure a lot of people get inspiration from this. But if you want to follow Justin on Instagram, his name is now his name.
Yeah,
Justin Blau is easy to find. Any messages you want to share? We'll leave on the last note.
We should leave on a mutual passion that I recently discovered. What's on your watch wish list? Totally changing it up.
What's on my
what of the new
watch
releases,
wish list?
What of the new releases is the one you're gunning for?
Oh, man. Honestly, I got so into watches that like I don't even know what's on my wish list anymore. It's like not even
okay. So
top
if
of
there
mind.
was one thing,
all right, right now, one
call you for
one.
One.
The your watch, the black ceramic AP open work,
the one that they've discontinued.
Yeah,
now, though.
Yeah.
Oh, so that doesn't count. It has to.
But it's on my wish list. Like it doesn't have to get it from an AD.
Okay,
I can fucking buy it.
I should have
buy it from you.
I should have worn it. Oh my god, I'll never.
That's my favorite. I love that watch.
Oh man, it's art.
Yeah,
it's like art in the purest form.
And I just love how they're doing it with the different colors. That like the white ceramic is dope.
The artistry behind it is just.
How about you? What's next for you?
I love the new Patek perpetual calendar with the smoked sapphire dial. I think it's the 5169G or something. I forget the number. Forget the reference. 6159, whatever. It's the new smoked dial. I don't have a perpetual calendar yet.
Okay.
So I want that to be my first with the horn nail dial and the. You know which one I'm talking about?
I don't even know if I know which one. I saw the new.
I'll show you a picture.
Yeah, I have to see. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But this was awesome. A lot of value for everyone, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.